The compression artifacts on the live stream were barely noticeable. She was broadcasting at 1080p and 60 frames per second. It gave me a perfectly clear view of my customized ergonomic office chair hitting the bottom of the industrial dumpster. I watched the reinforced steel frame snap on impact. That chair cost exactly $1,240.50. My sister Chloe was laughing loudly into her phone camera. She told her 412 viewers that she was finally clearing the toxic energy out of her spare room. It was not her spare room. It was my primary remote office. My name is Arthur. I am 32 years old and based in downtown Chicago. Professionally, I am a principal cloud infrastructure architect. I specialize in catastrophic data recovery and secure access management. Chloe never understood what my title meant. She only knew that I paid her living expenses quietly so she could pursue her failing career as a lifestyle influencer. I sat in my corporate office 15 miles away from the dumpster. I did not feel angry or betrayed. Anger is a highly inefficient use of cognitive bandwidth. Instead, I felt a profound sense of administrative clarity. I opened a secondary monitor and pulled up the biometric access logs for the building. It was technically my building. I held the master deed under a blind corporate trust. She had bypassed the secondary security door at exactly 1:14 in the afternoon. She tossed a heavy box of my proprietary external hard drives next. Those drives contained 74 terabytes of encrypted financial data. They were military-grade and shock-proof up to a 50-foot drop. The physical data was perfectly safe. Her immediate financial future, however, was about to be completely reformatted. Where were you the exact moment you realized your blood relatives were simply parasites with a shared genetic code? Tell me the time and location in the comments below. I zoomed in on the live stream interface. I meticulously catalogued every item she threw away in a decentralized ledger. The total depreciated value was currently resting at $8,412.20. She smiled widely at the camera and called me a paranoid hoarder. She had absolutely no idea she was live streaming her own financial ruin. I placed my coffee mug precisely on the center of my desk coaster. The time for passive support was over. The financial hemorrhage began precisely 42 months ago. My mother suffered a minor ischemic stroke. The medical bills were initially significant. I established a localized trust fund to manage her immediate out-of-pocket care. I seeded that trust with $75,000. It was a calculated expenditure to maintain familial stability. Stability did not occur. The trust became a centralized slush fund. Chloe declared herself the primary caregiver. This role required absolutely zero medical training. It did, however, require a newly leased luxury SUV. She chose a vehicle with a monthly payment of $899. She claimed she needed the advanced suspension to transport our mother comfortably. Our mother leaves the house exactly twice a month. My father was complicit through active negligence. He retired early from his mid-level accounting job. He cited the stress of my mother's condition. In reality, he simply realized my direct deposits were more reliable than his pension. I transferred exactly $4,250 on the first of every month. This covered the mortgage, utilities, and a substantial grocery budget. I allowed this financial architecture to exist because it minimized my required physical presence. I was orchestrating multi-million-dollar server migrations. I did not have the latency required to argue over grocery receipts. They confused my financial efficiency with emotional weakness. This is a common operational error. Chloe's influencer career was the largest unauthorized dependency in the system. I reviewed the hidden ledger on my secondary server. I had systematically paid off her high-interest credit cards 4 separate times. The total sum was $48,612. Each time she promised the next brand deal would make her self-sufficient. The brand deals never materialized. She viewed my wealth as an infinite, unmetered resource. She thought the server would never crash. She forgot that I am the one who built the server. I control the root access. I also control the firewalls. The family dynamic was a poorly optimized legacy system. It was consuming maximum resources while providing zero functional output. I watched her pick up my customized mechanical keyboard on the stream. I built that keyboard by hand. She threw it out the window. The keyboard shattered on the pavement below. I opened the root directory for the family trust. I hovered my cursor over the primary execution script. It was time to initiate a complete systemic deprecation. Today, they did not just rely on my money. They relied on my hidden labor. I built the entire digital ecosystem of that house. I installed a commercial-grade gigabit fiber node in the basement. I ran 3,000 feet of shielded Cat6a Ethernet cable through the walls. Chloe's pristine live streams were only possible because of my enterprise-level routing protocols. She assumed the internet was simply a utility like water. She did not know I actively managed the complex network load balancing. I also controlled the smart home environment. The perimeter security cameras, the ambient lighting, and the biometric smart locks were all routed through my personal server. I maintained the system with automated cron jobs. I patched the firmware vulnerabilities while they slept. My father never knew how the thermostat automatically adjusted to his preferred 68 degrees at sunset. He thought it was just a remarkably good modern appliance. It was actually a custom script I wrote using the manufacturer's proprietary API. Their financial lives were equally tethered to my secure infrastructure. I used an automated Python script to scrape their monthly utility bills. The script parsed the PDF invoices and executed direct ACH transfers from my secondary business checking account. They never saw a late fee. They never opened a physical envelope. I shielded them from the raw friction of adult existence. This was my critical operational error. Chloe's entire influencer persona relied on a specific media software suite. The software license was registered under my corporate enterprise account. I paid the $119.99 every single month. Her customized vanity domain name was hosted on my private virtual server. I managed the cryptographic SSL certificates. If I did not renew those certificates, her website would immediately display a severe security warning to every potential visitor. I was the invisible administrator of their daily reality. They took the flawless execution of these complex systems for granted. They mistook my silent, ongoing maintenance for weakness. It is a deeply fatal flaw to insult the system's architect while living inside his digital building. I looked at the dark mode administrative console on my primary screen. I possessed the vital root passwords. I held the master encryption keys. I had the complete authorization to sever all their lifelines with one deliberate keystroke. The silent retaliation arsenal was fully loaded. Best of all, it was entirely invisible to them. The live stream continued to broadcast my destroyed belongings. I opened the master control terminal on my secure workstation. It was time to execute the severance protocol. I began with the foundational layer of their reality. I accessed the network management dashboard. I located the specific MAC address for Chloe's high-end streaming computer. I did not simply disconnect her device. That would prompt a standard error message, and cause her to reboot the router. Instead, I throttled her bandwidth allocation down to a legacy dial-up speed of exactly 56 kilobits per second. The live stream immediately degraded into a mosaic of frozen, pixelated blocks. Her audio feed warped into a robotic drone before dropping completely. She was now completely digitally isolated from her audience. Next, I addressed the physical environment of the residence. I navigated to the smart home integration portal. I revoked my father's administrative privileges for the central HVAC system. I reset the baseline temperature to a strictly maintained 55 degrees Fahrenheit. I locked the digital thermostat interface to prevent any manual overrides. I then accessed the biometric security parameters for the property. I deleted their encoded fingerprints from the primary and secondary exterior doors. I reprogrammed the electronic deadbolts to recognize only my master biometric signature. They were now physically locked out of the house if they ever stepped outside. The property was no longer a comfortable sanctuary. It was a strictly enforced, secure perimeter. The financial architecture required a precise and methodical demolition. I logged into the primary banking portal using my secondary encrypted credentials. I navigated to the automated transfer schedules. I highlighted the recurring $4,250 payment to my father. I clicked the termination parameter and permanently deleted the routing pathway. I did the exact same thing for the dedicated medical trust account. I transferred the remaining balance of $41,312.18 back into my sole corporate holding account. I froze the physical debit cards linked to those depleted funds. If my father attempted to buy his imported groceries, the transaction would register as heavily declined. He would have zero active purchasing power. Finally, I targeted Chloe's digital infrastructure. I accessed the enterprise software licensing portal. I terminated the seat license for her video editing suite. The software would immediately lock her out of all project files. I logged into the primary domain registrar. I updated the DNS records for her personal website. I redirected all incoming web traffic to a blank error page. I revoked the cryptographic SSL certificate. I watched the automated confirmation emails populate my encrypted inbox. Every single digital connection was now officially severed. I closed the terminal window and locked my screen. I picked up my coffee mug from the wooden coaster. The liquid inside was still perfectly warm. The administrative withdrawal was flawlessly complete. I did not feel a trace of hesitation. I only felt the satisfaction of a successfully optimized system. I waited for the inevitable panic. The latency between my system execution and their behavioral response was exactly 14 minutes. My secondary monitor displayed an incoming call from my father. I routed the audio through my premium audio headset. I did not answer. The call rolled to a secure server I built last year. The transcription algorithm processed his audio file instantly. He was standing at the grocery checkout lane. He had attempted to purchase $382.15 worth of imported meats and artisan cheeses. The payment terminal declined the transaction with a hard error code. He left a 40-second voicemail. He did not ask if there was a banking error. He demanded to know why I was intentionally embarrassing him in public. He stated that I was causing my mother severe emotional distress. This was a classic manipulation tactic. My mother was safely resting at home. He was simply trying to leverage her medical condition to secure his premium groceries. I archived the audio file into an encrypted folder labeled evidence. I tagged it with a precise timestamp for future operational deployment. Chloe escalated with significantly more aggression. She sent a barrage of text messages. She used an internet-based messaging application. Since her bandwidth was throttled, the messages arrived in fragmented data packets. The first intact message arrived at exactly 2:31 in the afternoon. She asked if I was punishing her for cleaning out the junk in the spare room. She called me a pathetic control freak. She threatened to post a highly edited video exposing my abusive behavior to her followers. She demanded I restore her internet access within 5 minutes. She did not understand the severe disadvantage of her position. She was threatening to expose me using the exact same hardware and network I fully controlled. I monitored the internal temperature of the house. The remote sensors confirmed the ambient temperature was successfully locked at 55 degrees. My father sent another text message complaining about the freezing cold. He ordered me to fix the broken thermostat immediately. He told me to stop playing childish games and restore the connection. He said my mother was shivering because of my selfish technical incompetence. They still believed this was a temporary glitch or a minor tantrum. They assumed the established power dynamic remained perfectly intact. They thought a few harsh words and manufactured guilt would force an immediate system rollback. I watched the localized network traffic on my dashboard. Chloe was frantically rebooting the primary router. She was initiating a hard reset by holding the physical power button for 30 seconds. It was a completely useless action. The restriction was hard-coded at the provider level through my enterprise administrative portal. I poured myself a glass of distilled water. Their panic was escalating precisely according to the projected behavioral model. I adjusted my posture and prepared to compile the necessary documentation. Their absolute lack of technical literacy was their final undoing. I smiled. The trap was ready. The panic was my signal to begin the final data extraction. I opened my security information and event management console. This is a centralized dashboard that records every single digital action on a network. I initiated a custom SQL query targeting Chloe's device MAC addresses over the past 36 months. I was not looking for her browsing history. I was compiling a legally binding audit trail of her digital grift. The query parsed exactly 4,200,000 packets of metadata. The results generated a pristine CSV file containing her deleted communications. She frequently used encrypted messaging apps to coordinate fake brand sponsorships. She assumed end-to-end encryption meant the data was invisible. She forgot that the initial handshake protocol always leaves a localized fingerprint on the host router. I extracted 47 distinct conversations where she explicitly admitted to using our mother's illness for sympathy donations. She had funneled $12,450 of donated funds into a private offshore wallet. My father required a different method of extraction. I accessed the cloud-based accounting software I built for his early retirement. I cross-referenced his claimed medical expenditures with the actual GPS telemetry from his smartphone. He claimed he drove mother to a specialized physical therapy clinic in the suburbs every Tuesday. The GPS data confirmed his vehicle was parked at an upscale golf resort exactly 31 miles in the opposite direction. He spent $145 on greens fees every single week using the medical trust card. I downloaded the geolocation data overlay and merged it with the banking ledger. Every piece of this data was hashed using a secure cryptographic algorithm. This mathematical process locks the file completely. It guarantees the files cannot be altered or tampered with by any external party. The receipts were now legally undeniable. I packaged the consolidated evidence into a secure cloud bucket. A bucket is simply a highly protected digital storage locker in the cloud. I configured the access control list to remain completely locked until my command. They believed gaslighting was an effective strategy against a systems architect. Gaslighting relies on a distortion of memory and emotional fatigue. Data does not have a memory. Data simply exists as absolute binary truth. I spent 2 hours formatting the compiled reports into universally readable documents. The final dossier was exactly 112 pages long. It documented $74,210 in fraudulent family expenditures. I routed the final dossier to a remote printing facility. I ordered 3 physical copies bound in heavy black cardstock. They would attempt to twist the narrative and manipulate reality. I was preparing to drop an anvil of pure quantitative truth. I paid $42.15 for the printing invoice. The courier would deliver the sealed boxes directly to my office tomorrow morning. I closed the terminal window and stretched my neck slowly. The administrative trap was now completely and fully armed. The physical confrontation occurred at precisely 9:14 the next morning. My office receptionist alerted me through the internal messaging system. My father and sister were standing in the glass lobby of my corporate headquarters. They bypassed the standard visitor protocol by claiming a severe family emergency. I instructed the receptionist to escort them into conference room B. This specific room is acoustically isolated and equipped with a discreet secondary security feed. I did not rush to meet them. I spent 12 minutes running a final diagnostic on the compiled digital dossier. I entered the conference room with my tablet and a single black folder. Chloe was wearing a heavy designer coat that cost $850. She looked noticeably unkempt from the lack of artificial lighting and digital validation. My father forced a wide, unnatural smile. He extended his right hand for a physical greeting. I did not engage the handshake. I simply sat down at the head of the polished walnut table. They immediately launched into a coordinated psychological operation. My father spoke first. He claimed the entire situation was a massive misunderstanding. He said Chloe was just acting out because of the stress of caring for our mother. Chloe nodded in practiced synchronization. She apologized for throwing away my vintage office equipment. She called it a silly, impulsive joke. She promised to buy me a new keyboard with her next sponsorship check. This was a statistical impossibility given her current negative bank balance. They asked me to fix the weird computer glitch at the house. They framed my deliberate severance protocol as a random technical error. They were offering me a graceful way to surrender and resume my role as their silent financier. My father pushed a physical paper bill across the table. It was a final notice for his luxury vehicle lease. He gently suggested I pay it today to avoid hurting the family credit score. He used a soft, paternal tone designed to trigger childhood compliance. He told me that family always sticks together through minor disagreements. Chloe added that our mother was crying this morning because the house was so cold. They used her medical vulnerability as a bludgeon to force my immediate cooperation. They wanted the trust funds unlocked and the gigabit internet restored. They expected me to apologize and type a command. They assumed the false truce was successfully established. I looked at the clock on the wall. It was exactly 9:32 in the morning. The financial markets were fully open for daily trading. The timing was perfectly aligned for maximum systemic impact. I placed my hand flat on the black folder. I did not feel an ounce of familial loyalty. I felt the cold friction of the impending data drop. I looked directly into his eyes and slid the heavy folder forward. The false truce was officially and completely terminated. I was ready to deploy the catastrophic data payload. Their engineered reality was about to crash permanently today. I did not open the black folder. I tapped the icon on my encrypted tablet. The frosted privacy glass of conference room B instantly became transparent. The entire corporate engineering production floor could now observe us. I initiated a secure shell protocol that hijacked Chloe's primary social media account. The premium resolution ceiling camera above us began broadcasting to her 412 viewers. She did not know she was live. I opened the dossier. I slid page 47 toward my father. It contained the geofence telemetry data from his smartphone. I read the numbers aloud with zero vocal inflection. I stated that he embezzled exactly $12,450 from the medical trust. I explained that the funds subsidized $145 greens fees at the Oakmont Country Club. His fake paternal smile collapsed into an asymmetrical grimace. He looked at the transparent glass walls and the dozens of engineers watching him. I turned my physical orientation toward Chloe. I deployed the next data payload. I pushed page 82 across the walnut table. It contained the decrypted transaction logs from her offshore cryptocurrency wallet. I detailed her fraudulent solicitation of donations for our mother's completely fake surgeries. I explained that her actions constituted federal wire fraud under Title 18 of the United States Code. I showed her the automated script I used to forward these exact logs to the Regional Cybercrimes Division. Have you ever watched a parasite realize the host organism has developed a lethal systemic defense? Tell me exactly how their facial muscles twitched in the comments below. Chloe noticed the red recording indicator on the ceiling camera. She checked her mobile device. She saw her own face broadcasting live over a throttled cellular connection. She began to hyperventilate loudly. She demanded I terminate the feed immediately. I denied the request. I informed her that absolute transparency is the most efficient method for resolving corrupt data. My father stood up and knocked his expensive leather chair backward. The chair hit the floor with a loud and hollow thud. He threatened to call the local authorities and have me arrested for cyberstalking. I handed him the final printed document. It was a legally binding eviction notice for the primary residence. I reminded him that the property is solely owned by my blind corporate trust. The document gave them exactly 72 hours to vacate the premises completely. I explicitly stated that any removed physical fixtures would result in immediate civil litigation. I informed them that a private medical transport was currently relocating our mother to a premium assisted living facility. The first month of her highly specialized neurological care was already paid in full. The initial cost was exactly $8,920. They could no longer use her as a convenient human shield to extract unearned resources. The public transmission of absolute truth was now perfectly and undeniably complete. The stream captured every second of their total psychological ruin. The fallout propagated through their lives like a cascading network failure. By 3:14 that afternoon, Chloe's primary sponsor officially terminated her affiliate contract. The sponsor was a mid-tier cosmetics brand. They deployed a public relations statement citing a zero-tolerance policy for financial exploitation. Her digital metrics flatlined immediately. She lost 84% of her active subscriber base in under 4 hours. The algorithmic penalty on her profile was permanent. My father experienced a similar structural collapse. The country club revoked his membership at exactly 4 o'clock. They sent an automated email referencing a severe breach of conduct. He could no longer access the premium facilities or the exclusive dining room. His social standing evaporated instantly. He was now just an unemployed accountant facing serious legal exposure. The physical eviction proceeded with maximum administrative efficiency. I hired a bonded private security firm to monitor the property. The firm charged $150 an hour. It was a completely justifiable operational expense. 2 armed guards stood silently at the edge of the driveway. They ensured my father and sister only removed their personal clothing. Every single piece of furniture belonged to the corporate trust. They were legally barred from taking a single electronic device. They attempted to secure emergency housing using their credit profiles. Their applications triggered an immediate automated denial. I had already flagged their profiles with severe fraud alerts through my banking contacts. A fraud alert freezes a credit file completely. It prevents the opening of any new financial accounts. They were forced to rent a deeply substandard motel room off the interstate. The nightly rate was $54.99. It did not have gigabit internet. Their engineered reality was completely dismantled. They had weaponized our mother's illness to build a comfortable existence. That existence was fundamentally built on my proprietary infrastructure. When I revoked the access tokens, the entire simulation crashed. I monitored their digital distress signals from my office. Chloe tried to launch a secondary crowdfunding campaign. The hosting platform banned her IP address within 12 seconds. My automated scripts were actively scrubbing the internet for any new financial pathways. I was systematically blocking every single exit route. The systemic collapse was mathematically flawless. They were finally forced to exist in the raw, unshielded friction of the real world. I watched the terminal output with deep satisfaction. The parasitic anomaly was now completely resolved. Gemini said the primary residence is now perfectly quiet and entirely devoid of parasitic activity. The ambient temperature is optimized at exactly 68 degrees Fahrenheit. The gigabit network bandwidth is completely unallocated and resting at 0 utilization. I sit in my new ergonomic chair and monitor the final automated processes. My mother is receiving continuous neurological care at her premium medical facility. Her localized trust is securely insulated from any external financial interference. The operational system is finally running without any unauthorized family dependencies. There is a distinct asymmetry to the conclusion of a successful deployment. The host system achieves complete equilibrium and unhindered forward momentum. The severed dependencies simply spiral into a chaotic, unmanaged void. My father and sister are currently managing their existence on $54.99. I do not actively monitor their daily struggle or check their location anymore. The security logs confirm their access tokens are permanently and legally revoked. The enterprise firewall between my wealth and their entitlement is absolute. I have successfully reformatted the core architecture of my life. When you finally amputate the dead weight from your personal network, what is the very first thing you build with the reclaimed bandwidth? Tell me exactly how you optimize your newfound peace in the comments below. I sip my black coffee from the exact center of my wooden desk coaster. The dark liquid is maintained at precisely 180 degrees. The digital and physical architecture of my reality is flawlessly secure. I built the underlying infrastructure from the ground up with my own 2 bare hands. I maintain absolute control over the root permissions and the administrative access codes. The central server is finally operating at absolute peak efficiency today. This fictionalized first-person audio drama script is now officially and completely finished forever.